Baseball is back, and there really is nothing like a home team advantage. That's why Team Toyota makes an obvious choice for your next vehicle purchase or service. With their MVP pricing guarantee, teammates reward program, and streamlined customer experience, their award-winning sales and service departments are there for all of your vehicle needs. A home team advantage is nothing without family and community. Their employees are part of the family, they're part of your town, and we're all part of the team. Visit teamtoyota.net and choose one of their 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton. Phillies are hot. They're on fire as April comes to a close. This is the Phillies Talk Podcast presented by Team Toyota. I'm Corey Seidman, joined today by Ben Davis. Our producer is Spencer McKercher. And Ben, this series in San Diego, I'm sitting here in the press box at Petco Park. The series finale just ended about an hour ago. The Phillies just outclassed the Padres in every way this weekend, continued their role of dominance in multiple phases. I mean, just what are your impressions of the way the Phillies have been playing and just the way they've played this entire month?
Well, what's great about it is they've done it a lot with pitching, and obviously the bats have gotten really hot. But when this streak started, it was all about the pitching, and the pitching has been just phenomenal. That's the bottom line. This was a pretty good hitting Padres ball club. They're ranked in the tops in the leagues in a lot of different categories, and the Phillies, for the most part, came in and just shut them down. The starting pitching has been awesome. The bullpen hasn't really even been used. These guys are going 8 innings, 7 innings, and just leaving an inning or two possibly for the bullpen. But the bats have come alive. Turner is just on fire. Bohm's on a different planet. And, it's not even 1 through 9 that's all hot right now, but they are putting up runs at an alarming rate. It's been fun to watch. Probably my favorite offensive stat is the one with runners in scoring position and 2 outs. I mean, they have just been hot as a firecracker and really just channeling everything to get these runs across home plate, and they've been phenomenal.
I asked Rob Thompson about the 2-out offense in this going into the series finale, whether it's something that he thinks is like an actual skill a lineup can have, or it's just randomness that fluctuates throughout the course of a season. And he leaned toward the latter, that it's just randomness. But he did say that the more a team does it, the more a team believes that it can continue to do it, right? And you're seeing right now that the Phillies, anytime they get a base runner, feel like they can push that base runner across. You mentioned Alec Bohm. He's got to be the player of the week, right? I mean, I know Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts are having great weeks themselves, but this guy now, it's 8 straight games with an extra base hit. In the last 12 during this hitting streak, he's driven in 16 runs. He's at 524. This has been hotter than we've ever seen Alec Bohm. Like, we've seen stretches where he's producing with runners in scoring position, but he's making a huge difference with these doubles and home runs. And it looks like he's making that next step that we thought he might have been poised to make last year. He did take a step forward last year, but this looks like an all-star caliber player.
Yeah, hitting is the hardest thing to do in all of sports. We know that, but he's making it look really easy right now. And I said to Michael B in the post-game show, I said, if you had those numbers in Little League, that would be good. If you had those numbers in high school, that would be really good. He's doing this at the big league level, and it's against all different kinds of pitchers, all kinds of different pitches. He's on the fastball. He's on time with the fastball. He's not out in front of the breaking ball. He's using the whole field. He's staying behind it. He's an RBI machine. I know he doesn't hit a ton of home runs. I don't care. Give me the guy that drives runners in. Give me that RBI guy. I will take him any day of the week and twice on Sunday. And that's what Alec Bohm is right now.
So we also saw on Sunday that Taijuan Walker made his much anticipated season debut. It was a game that everybody had their eyes on because Taijuan Walker's become like this mystery figure. What are the Phillies going to get out of him? Are they going to be able to derive mid-rotation or back of the rotation value from him? Or is he going to be a guy that you have to hold your breath over every 5 days? And in this first start, we saw a little bit of both, right? We saw Taijuan Walker retire 11 of 12 after a 3-run third inning, really settled back in, efficiency, entered the 7th inning at just 73 pitches. And then things went wrong. A walk started another 3-run rally. And Taijuan Walker is a guy who just can't afford to issue too many free passes because he doesn't miss a ton of bats. But what did you see out of his first outing, and what are you going to be keying on with Walker moving forward?
I think it was so-so. This is a lineup that I think he could handle. I was hoping that the velocity would be up a little bit more, and not that velocity is everything, but it just offsets that split finger, which he said after the game. He said my split finger was terrible. He didn't like the action on it. But if he doesn't have that extra velocity, there's not that big a variance between the splitter and his fastball. I thought his cutter was probably his best pitch in the ball game against the Padres, and I think there's definitely room for improvement. But he's got to keep the ball in the yard. Wasn't able to do that today or in the ball game in San Diego on Sunday, and I thought it was so-so. I think there's some things that he needs to work on, but you got to send him back out there in the seventh inning. He only had 73 pitches going into that inning. It's a no-brainer for Rob Thompson. You can question him all you want, but you got to send him back out. And, going into the series against the Angels, you don't know what's going to happen. So if you can save some guys out of the pen, then do it. But I would say overall, I'd give him probably give him a B- in the game if I were to grade him. Some things that he can improve upon. And obviously, again, if you can get that velocity up, I think it's going to help out a lot.
So the part of the Walker decision, sending him back after the seventh, the only part of it that I questioned was just that last season, you look at his game log, there were like 12 games where he threw between 80 and 85 pitches in that range. And he was, through 6 innings, but the Phillies still took him out because they didn't want him to go through a lineup, say, for the third time, or there were hitters who would got to him earlier in the game. So it was a bit surprising there was 0 bullpen activity until there were 2 men aboard in that inning, especially with how rested this bullpen's been. But I mean, you mentioned that earlier, Ben, that's when you know that you're dealing with good problems, when you go from talking about relievers being overworked to relievers being underworked.
Yeah, it's like an embarrassment of riches is what it is. I mean, now you got Sanchez, you got Turnbull, and then Wheeler Wednesdays coming up, and these guys have thrown the ball extremely well, so they can afford to do that. They can afford to give Zach Wheeler an extra day, and Aaron Nola, Ranger Suárez 2 extra days. So that's something I think is only going to benefit them down the road. But yeah, it is. It's an embarrassment of riches for these guys right now, and a lot of these guys in the bullpen are probably saying, "Hey, when are we going to get a chance at this?" But it probably won't last all year. But the way the starters have been throwing the baseball, it's been fun to watch, and the fact that the offense is scoring so early to let these guys kind of front run a little bit, I think has helped out as well.
Yeah, the early offense is a huge piece of all this. The Phillies have scored first 7 games in a row. And I wrote this earlier today. Last 19 games, the Phillies have scored first 15 of those 19 games. And 3 of the times they didn't, they answered immediately in the bottom of the first. So this is pretty much every night for the last 3 weeks that the Phillies put up early offense, and they've been able to front run, and it's just made a huge difference. There's Spencer McKercher, our producer. How you doing, Spence?
Good, man. How are you guys? Man, what a fun start to this little West Coast trip as we head to Anaheim here starting on Monday. Rob kind of laid out today after the game on Sunday here as we record this, the pitching, rotation now going forward here. Christopher Sanchez will start Monday. Turnbull will get the start on Tuesday. Zach Wheeler will get Wednesday. Zach will get that extra day of rest. Ben, I want to ask you, though, do you think I know, Corey, I don't know if you asked it or I can't remember who asked Rob today after the game. Do you think Taijuan had any kind of motivation going out there with the decision here with Turnbull? Ben, is there that kind of added motivation for Taijuan's start today? And if so, how would you handle that as a player kind of going forward? You have this competition brewing, and a guy's been pitching well in Spencer Turnbull, but now, you're stuck with Taijuan Walker.
Well, you obviously want to put up numbers every time you go out there, and that's what Taijuan wanted to do in the ball game against the Padres. But I don't think he's a guy that's going to be looking over his shoulder at Spencer Turnbull. If I have another bad outing, is Spencer Turnbull going to, replace me? And am I going to be the long guy in the bullpen? These are questions you can't have in the back of your mind when you're going out there and trying to accomplish a task. And that's what Taijuan Walker wanted to do. Just go out there, have a good outing. Will the lease be short for Taijuan Walker? I don't know, because he is due, including this year, $54 million more dollars, getting that $18 million a year. So what can they do with them? They probably can't trade him. And Spencer Turnbull has not thrown a lot of innings in the last couple of years because of injury. So they don't want to ride him out there and have him get hurt. So they do have some possibilities of making a spot start here and there if a given starter needs an extra day of rest, so on and so forth. So they can do that. But I think, Taijuan Walker, he's a seasoned vet. I think he's going to get his full tenure this year with service time. So I don't think he's going to be one of those guys that's always looking over his shoulder. He's just worried about going out there and trying to put his team in the best position to win.
there's a large portion of the fan base that's just out on Taijuan Walker already, but the reality is that it's in the Phillies' best interest to use him and be able to get him back to a good place because, as you mentioned, Ben, 3 more years, $18 million a year for Taijuan Walker. You're not going to find a trade partner for him right now. And I mean, maybe eventually you do, but he's going to need to pitch well in order to, make that a more realistic possibility. And yes, things went south at the end of the 2023 season, but he did have a pretty much a half season run, 14 starts where he was 10-2 with a 2.74 ERA, was going deep into games, getting quick, weak contact, which we saw more of on Sunday. So, it's not out of the realm of possibility that he can put together a pretty good run here in 2024. It's going to be based on velocity and walks. I mean, he walked 2 batters on Sunday, and both times it started a rally. And so last season, Walker, when he had no walks or 1 walk, he had a 3.22 ERA. When he had multiple walks, he had a 4.97 ERA. So when you're not missing bats and you have to be so fine and you have to rely on like borderline calls from umpires that he did not get on Sunday, you just have less wiggle room. But with Spencer Turnbull, Ben, what do you think about this? Like, what do you think about this whole going to a 6-man rotation for 1 cycle here? But it sounds like the Phillies don't want to keep in the 6-man rotation. I mean, Rob Thompson said on Saturday that because they have off days May 2 and May 9, 2 consecutive Thursdays, that if they were to go to a 6-man rotation during that period, it would be giving guys too much time off.
Yeah, we know guys like Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, they don't like to have those added days. However, with how many innings they've logged early on in the season, I think it's good that they do get a day or two to really kind of rest up even more. But yeah, I agree with that. You can't give guys too many days off. You just get out of rhythm with your bullpens in between, with your working out schedule, with your cardio schedule. All these things kind of factor into how you prepare yourself for the next start. And if you get too many days off, it can mess with that, and it throws you out of rhythm. So. Rob Thompson has a very good way, and Caleb Cotham with the pitching staff, and they'll do what's best for the staff.
Celebrity cook Steve Martirano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martirano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations for Martirano's Prime on OpenTable.
I'm glad we're talking about Alec Bohm here too, man. The guys, like we said, Ben, like the numbers that he's been putting up. I mean, you look at his last 12 games, the 12-game hitting streak, he's been 521. The doubles too, 10 doubles is crazy. I think he had 15 all in 2021. I know that was like his first full season, but still, it's crazy. Are we looking at all-star level Alec Bohm? And I know there was a lot of pressure kind of coming into this season for Alec of, hey, this is your year to step up and perform, right? It's year 4, year 5 coming in here. Are we going to see all-star Alec Bohm come July?
I think right now he's got to be a starting third baseman for the National League squad. I don't see anybody else. I mean, I know Austin Riley's a very good player, obviously, down in Atlanta, but there's some good third basemen in the league. Obviously, Arenado is perennial all-star and Gold Glover, platinum Gold Glover, and all this stuff. But he's doing it on both sides of the ball as Alec Bohm, and he's a cog. He's a big cog in that lineup right now. He's going to give added protection to Bryce Harper. I really think you're going to see Bryce Harper start to get a few more better pitches to hit. And I think that's something that's only going to make him better. Obviously, they need to get him going. But the way Alec Bohm is swinging the bat right now, again, I don't care if it's velocity or off-speed pitches. He's just getting pitches to hit and not missing them. And you get into very rarely was I able to get in a groove offensively when I played. But when you did get in a groove, or you go in a certain ballpark where you feel comfortable, man, it just kind of clears your mind and makes hitting a little easier. Not that it ever is, but a little easier. But he's just rolling right now. His swing is tight. He's a big dude, but he's got a tight swing, and the ball just jumps off his bat.
And he's always made a ton of contact, right? He's always made a ton of contact. And so the question was just, can he make better quality contact, and can he, walk a little bit more, which he's done this season. The plate selection's been better. He's been laying off those borderline pitches away. To me, he looks like an all-star right now. I know there's a lot of time to go, a couple months here, but I'm looking at the landscape of the National League at third base. Bohm has 8 more RBIs than any National League third baseman. He's hitting 57 points higher than any National League third baseman. Riley's off to a pretty slow start. Arenado is not the same player he once was, still amazing defensively, but not nearly like the power bat. So if Alec Bohm keeps this up, yes, he's going to find himself in the All-Star game, whether he's starting or not. But, I mean, that you mentioned Bryce Harper just now, Ben. Bryce Harper really, aside from that 1 3-homer game, hasn't done a ton offensively, and yet the Phillies are still 19-10, most wins they've ever had in the month of April. Well, at least dating back to 1900. I don't know what happened.
1900 is crazy.
I don't know what happened back in 1892. Do you remember, Ben?
Were you guys locked in?
I know it's great. I hate that gray yet.
They were still riding their dinosaurs at the ballpark too.
That's right.
Hey, but Bryson Stott, big day for him on Sunday as well, with a pair of 2-run homers. And Ben, you know this as well as anybody. This is a difficult place to hit one out in right center, right? I mean, I know it's not nearly as difficult as it used to be because they moved the fences in a bit, but still, you got to put a charge into a ball to get one out here.
You do. Daytime does help, but the balls that he hit, I mean, they would have been going at it anywhere. The first one he hit, that just disappeared. But it was nice to see him stay behind some pitches. It looks like he was starting to reach for pitches, and it kind of got him out. He was swinging early to something that he didn't do a whole lot of last year. And he's been better with 2 strikes, and that's something. Listen, they need him in that lineup to hit. That's the bottom line. He's very good defensively. We know that. Runner-up in the Gold Glove last year, but they need him to get going. And you can see with one thing with Bryson Stott, there's never going to be any panic. He's the same guy every day. He does not panic, and he keeps getting his work in and kind of realizing, hey, it's going to turn around. So maybe that is the game that we look back on and say, yep, it was that game in San Diego. He hit the two-run homers, had 4 RBIs, and that really turned him around for the season. But he was staying behind the baseball, backing that ball up a little bit more, and he got some hanging sliders and didn't miss them.
Yeah, and I think too, right? It was deja vu with his second home run. Casti walks. He had an 0-2 count, worked a walk, and then came up again. How about his plate discipline? I know, obviously, the bat, he finally hit the home run the other day, kind of getting going here. But his plate discipline, Corey, has been phenomenal, right? So far, just to kind of finally starting to click a little bit for Nick.
Yeah, it's been better. He's been laying off more pitches. Castellanos talked earlier this month about how maybe he got too far in his own head with the plate selection stuff and was letting pitches go that he could have otherwise attacked. But, I mean, he has walked more. And Stott made a comment after the game that it was almost like a role reversal from 2023 because they were more used to Stott walking and then Castellanos hitting the 2-run homer, and this time it was vice versa. But, I mean, if the Phillies can get Castellanos going at some point, like they're 19-10. Bryce Harper's hitting like 240, right? And Nick Castellanos is hitting 170 or whatever he's at without any power, really. So they're like, when those guys get going, Bohm might not be as hot. I mean, you're not going to have all 9 guys hot at the same time, but this just all should be cause for optimism for Phillies fans, in my opinion, that early on, first 2 weeks of the season, they're not slugging, but they're still winning because the pitching is so good. Now they are slugging. They're able to overcome a game like Sunday where the Padres put a late scare into them. But I mean, this is a cliche. It's been said as long as baseball's been around, Ben. But if you have good starting pitching, you have a chance to win every single game. And right now, there's no team that's even in the same stratosphere as the Phillies rotation in terms of the depth and the length. Aaron Nola, for example. Like, we haven't even talked about Ranger Suárez in this podcast yet. We'll get to him in a bit. But like Aaron Nola, who's been overshadowed by Suárez and by Wheeler, has now recorded an out in the 8th inning in 3 straight games, which nobody's done since 2021. So this is just rare stuff we're seeing from the Phillies rotation, which has looked even better than that 2011 rotation to this point.
Yeah, they're getting the job done. That's the bottom line. They're not walking guys. But the thing I like, and it's kind of like old school baseball. I said this on the post-game show the other night. It's almost like they're content to get a ground ball out on the second or third pitch of an at-bat. Like, okay, we don't see a whole lot of that. We see the 5 and dive. We've seen that for years, 5 innings, and then you're out of the ball game because you threw 100 pitches because you're max effort on every pitch. You're trying to miss bats and strike everybody out. These guys are content to get that ground ball, get a ball on the ground. Aaron Nola and he threw 7 pitches in the first inning the other night. So that's something that I think these guys are kind of learning. Like, hey, you know what? If I want to get the ball every 5th day, I want to go as long and deep in that game as I want. It's okay if I trust my stuff, I rely on my stuff, I rely on late movement to stay off barrels, I'll take a ground ball. There's nothing wrong with that. And then some of these guys have the ability to punch your ticket. If they need a strikeout, man on third, less than 2 outs, they have that ability to go in there and punch your ticket. And, relievers are the same way. So they're in a very good spot to be in right now. And, the offense is clicking. And they're doing it with the long ball for the most part, but they're also stealing bases. They're hitting behind runners. They're taking the extra base on. We saw a lot of guys being thrown out early in the season, almost like they were invisible. But now they're knowing when to take the extra base, and they're smarter on the base pads. And everything is just from that standpoint, everything really is clicking.
Yeah, Corey, and now I think we do have to talk about Ranger, right? Because I know jokingly there's been a lot of talk of, hey, here's your 2024 Cy Young winner, right? Already. He's been so awesome to watch, and just the cool, calm collectedness of Ranger. I still think it's crazy that the scoreless inning streak kind of ended at 32 innings there, with a home run in the 8th with 2 outs, and then the next pitch he gets a ground ball to first and ends the inning all cool, calm, and collected. Right? That's how the season is going for Ranger. I think the generic question, I guess, would be like, can he keep this up for a few more months going towards the playoffs? I know, and if he's going to be pitching this much with the innings, I don't know if he's ever pitched that well or this many innings come season's end. Can we see this Ranger stay this consistently good with the low ERA and all that for the rest of the season?
Well, if he does, it would be like a Hall of Fame caliber Bob Gibson-esque season. So
right.
I mean, it's unrealistic for anybody to maintain a 1.32 ERA. I mean, I'm just looking right now at the ERA leaders from last April. And so, for example, Sonny Gray last April had a 0.77 ERA. He finished at 2.79. I think that's realistic for Ranger Suárez, somewhere between 2.50 and 3. And if so, that's like borderline ace numbers in this day and age. And what Ben just said about like guys being pitchers, that is a huge point in all this. Is that the Phillies don't have, like 97 mile per hour throwers. Like Dylan Cease, for example, is off to a very good start this year, but is a guy who goes like 5-6 innings max, right? He throws very hard. He misses a ton of bats, racks up strikeouts. But the Phillies have like actual workhorses, and they have at least 3 of them, right? They have Wheeler, Nola, Suárez, who feel they can go 7-8 innings every time. And I asked JT today, just how much fun is this for you, right? Catching all these different guys, all these different repertoires that are working. He said this is the easiest his job's ever been, the most fun he's ever had catching, and that the Phillies are making a lot of good lineups and good hitters look silly. I remember Ricky saying earlier in spring training he thought Ranger could be a Cy Young candidate, but and you're starting to think, okay, so that's a bold prediction, but hey, if he maintains a semblance of this performance, I also like the fact that he's getting more national notoriety. I do think this is the year he's going to win a Gold Glove if he pitches enough innings to qualify, doesn't get hurt, because there's enough people now who realize that he deserves the Gold Glove, and it's almost like you need to reach that tipping point where it's a foregone conclusion and people think you deserve it before you can start winning. Then you can start rattling them off. But he's a throwback. The fact that he ends in a defensive position, that's why he's able to make all these plays. I'm sure that's not something you see too much nowadays, right, Ben?
No, everyone's spinning off that landing foot. We see it pretty much with everybody other than, the guys that you're just talking about, the Wheeler, the Nola. These guys are first and foremost pitchers. They're not just throwers, but if I were in the box against Ranger, it'd be very frustrating for the fact that he's so good to both sides of the plate. And his start against the Padres, he was so good glove side. I mean, he was dotting that ball inside to righties. That opens up the outside part. But if his ability to throw both fastballs, he can throw the 4-seamer in to righties. He can fade the 2-seamer down and away. His ability to hit both sides of the plate with the fastball, with the changeup, his curveball was outstanding the other night. That pitch has come a long way for him. When he got called up, he was basically sinker, changeup. And now he's throwing the cutter. The curveball has come an awful long way. And you just can't give him both sides of the plate until you get to 2 strikes. Once you get 2 strikes, you have to cover, obviously, those 17 inches across. But other than that, if you're a good inside fastball hitter, you got to give him the outside part of the plate. But the problem with that is, if he knows that, he'll go back on the outside corner, and then you're 0-2-1-2 because his ability to throw strikes out there as well. So it can be very frustrating from an offensive standpoint, but very fun, like JT catching him, knowing that any finger you put down he's going to go with good quality pitch with it. And I love that he has so much conviction in all his pitches. It's almost like, here it is, man, hit it. If you think you can, if you get it, then I'll tip my cap to you. But I don't think you're going to do that. I'm going to stay off your barrel. Maybe I'll miss a couple bats. I just think I'm better than you. And he challenges guys. He has the intestinal fortitude, for lack of better words, to go out there and compete at the highest level.
We always try to throw in those big words, and that's a perfect way to describe Ranger right there. All right, let's close it up. Core, obviously you're out on the road. You're heading you got a big train here coming up to Anaheim, right?
Yeah, Monday morning, taking a short little train ride to Angel Stadium, see Mike Trout, see Christopher Sanchez, try to hold down a lineup that is not that Angels lineup. They're not as good as this Padres lineup that the Phillies just handled pretty much for 2 out of 3 days. But at some point, the vibes aren't going to be as great as they are right now. Like, this is there's nothing going wrong right now.
Yep,
I mean, other than I guess maybe Seranthony Dominguez, right? He had a couple shaky outings. He did bounce back the other night, but is there a concern level over Dominguez right now, in your opinion, Ben?
A little bit. I just see him overthrowing out there. The body language isn't great. I'd like to see him get more of that Ranger Suárez. Here it is, hit it. You don't have to be fine when you're throwing 98 with a little bit of cut and a good slider. I just see him overthrowing, spiking a lot of fastballs. That's a telltale sign that he's overthrowing. His stuff's too good to get hit. That's the bottom line. And I think if he had a little bit more confidence in himself right now, you'd see those numbers come down.
Well, and I know our good buddy Ricky Bo the other day in the office kind of suggested with Seranthony, obviously a few years ago, they sent Jose down to get right. And Jose's been phenomenal since. Corey, is there a chance that, we could see Seranthony if his struggles continue to get sent to Lehigh just to get right, just to kind of find whatever he needs to find like Jose did a few years ago?
I think if he had like consistent struggles and it was like 3-4 straight outings where he's not throwing strikes, not getting ahead in counts, and the home run ball continues to be a problem, maybe it's something they explore, but he's so important to them, and his importance to them is a reason why you might explore something like that down the road if the performance dictates it, because to your point, it has worked out wonderfully for Jose Alvarado, but there aren't guys at AAA who are like better bat missing options than Seranthony Dominguez. Like the version of Seranthony Dominguez the Phillies hope to have is a better option than like a Max Castillo or some of these like depth pieces at AAA. So it is, it's one thing to monitor here because other members of this bullpen have been so effective. Like Alvarado, Matt Strom since opening day. Jeff Hoffman has been a godsend for this team for a calendar year now. I mean, every time the guy comes into one of these dirty innings, as the Phillies like to call them, it seems like he comes through, right? And he has stamina. He can be a guy who pitches in the 6th inning or the 8th inning. So a lot of different arms on this team that can help. And if they can get that one extra guy in Dominguez going to give them a right-handed closing option potentially, just makes the team deeper, gives you more wiggle room in some of these close late games.
Perfect. All right, let's close it out. Obviously, like I started to say, Corey, you're on the road here.
Yeah.
Ben, we'll start with you. Obviously, San Diego Petco Park. Played there before. Great ballpark. What's your favorite ballpark to play in?
Well, it was old Yankee Stadium. Obviously not there anymore. You got the new Yankee Stadium. That was probably number one. And then probably Fenway was number 2. Just thinking about it, I'm staying in the same box as Ted Williams, or at the old Yankee Stadium, I'm staying in the same box as Babe Ruth. And it's just very nostalgic. I'm a baseball historian. I love the old time numbers and the ballparks. And but those two places were very special to me. And I loved playing there. It was fun.
Did you like make a point to like take it all in during your playing days? Like some days I'll see like a Phillies pitcher just kind of sitting in the dugout, just like looking out at the field, and you get the sense that they're just like taking in the moment because they know that this is a small portion of your life. It doesn't last forever.
Exactly. I remember my first trip to Yankee Stadium. I went out to the monuments and took it towards center field and did all that, and it was incredible. The first time I took a knee on the on-deck circle when I was at Yankee Stadium, and I didn't even remember watching. Orlando Hernandez, El Duque, was pitching for the Yankees. And I don't remember watching who was in front of me, how he was getting pitched. I just was like, it's like looking around. And the first pitch I saw off him, I hit a home run, which was pretty cool. And I just remember like floating around the bases, just floating.
Insane.
And then we go back the next year and Roger Clemens is pitching. I'm like, well, I swung at the first pitch off El Duque. Let me see if I get something up off Roger Clemens. And I got another pitch up and I hit another home run on my first trip back the next year. So that place, obviously that always held a special place in my heart. And then obviously with Fenway and the Green Monster, I never hit one over the Green Monster, but just getting to face Pedro Martinez there, like it was the ultimate challenge. He was the best I ever saw. And then Randy Johnson was number 2, but just having that opportunity to go out and face someone in the likes of Pedro, it's, in that setting, in that environment, it was awesome, just absolutely awesome.
So Clemens and Pedro and El Duque, did you ever get a chance to hit a double in a prison game like John Kruk did? Apparently,
no, never had that opportunity. Never had that opportunity. That conversation kind of caught, I think, everyone off guard.
You never know what Kruk's going to say, man. It just adds to the entertainment value of the Phillies on a nightly basis.
Absolutely insane.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this Phillies Talk podcast. Thanks a lot for everybody who listened or watched this on YouTube. The Phillies are on a roll, and we'll see if they can keep it going in this final leg of their road trip. For Ben Davis and Spencer McKercher, I'm Corey Seidman. Catch you later in the week.